Hello. So I'm going to make a few shortish videos about my musical influences over the years because I think it's interesting enough. And I'm going to jump in the middle when it was about mid to late 90s. And I'd been playing guitar and bass and drums a bit for years. I'd been on a jazz course in Manchester at a club called the Band on the Wall. And I've been to lots of jam sessions, which were basically like carrying the heavy amps, set them up, set the drums up, plug in, and then do you know the chords to Mustang Sally, and away you go. But I was always drawn to the experimental. I mean, Frank Zappa and genuine experimental pieces I would come across sometimes. And 20th century jazz, contemporary jazz. I didn't always understand it or even like it, but I was intrigued. So there were two eye-opening experiences for this jazz blues jammer that I was, and they were both in Reading, which is about 50 miles west of London in the UK, and they both actually happened at the same place, which was the Art Centre, which was a rather gloomy repurposed building on the edge of Reading town centre. So the first was that I saw advertised an experimental music workshop weekend, and this was run by Simon Fell, a British experimental composer who came down from the north to teach it. And I took along a bass and small amp, and this really was an eye-opener. Simon had a double bass with him, an acoustic double bass, a contrabass they call it here in Norway, and there was about 8 or 10 of us with different instruments. Saxophone, there was a flautist, me with bass. I think there was some more woodwind, maybe. Yes, there was a violinist. Anyway, so we kicked off, and he said, just play something. So we kicked off, and then he stopped us. And he said to me, you seem to be playing to a beat, to a rhythm, and you're playing notes all in one key. And furthermore, you've fallen into the E trap. Bass guitar has open strings tuned to E, A, D, G. And then he started to play, and the first thing he did was take out the bow for his double bass and start to rattle it on the body of the instrument, and then make squealing noises. I mean, just anything but play notes in a given key. And the day went on like that. He untaught us, and then started to build up ways of having a musical conversation. I've come inside between the attendees of this workshop, and it was a whole weekend, and it was just brilliant. It was fun and funny and great to break out of old habits. The second transformative experience was Harry Dawes and his Theremin. This was another advertised thing, and it was just an evening gig at the Reading Arts Centre. And this guy Harry Dawes arrived with his theremin. He was a raconteur. He told us all about the instrument, about Lev Theremin, the inventor in Russia, and etc., etc. It was great. And he had a backing band. He had a bass guitarist who played funk bass, and he had some percussion. And so what we heard was very listenable to indeed. So it was sort of experimental, and it was fun. And I thought, if he ever comes again, I'm going to bring a group of friends. And he did come again. And I did take a group of friends, promising them a great night. But this time it was just Harry Dawes and his theremin. There was no funk rhythm section. Just Harry, his theremin, and about 50 tiny yellow transistor radios, which he distributed around the floor. So distributed sound sources. And he didn't engage with the audience. He didn't chat to us this time. Yeah, it was experimental, but unfortunately my group of friends, after about 15 minutes, decided they'd had enough. So we all left and went to the pub. So that was a big letdown. Nevertheless, extremely thought-provoking, but it made me think about what was great about the first gig that Harry did, and what was unpalatable and to some extent a failure about the second gig he did. And the second gig was rather like inviting people to a bicycle race without a road, without the bicycles moving. Interesting, but not what you expect. Am I going with these anecdotes? Well, they are experiences that have informed my musical sensibilities and ideas. And they tell part of the story of what it is I'm doing here on YouTube. And I'm going to tell some more of these stories in some videos very soon. So you can watch if you like. Thanks for listening. And so these anecdotes are an accompaniment really to the musical pieces which are on my YouTube channel here, Dickran Marsupial Music. So it's promotional, you know, it's to get people to engage with who I am as well as the sounds that I'm releasing. And I'm finding it quite interesting to do, to recall these experiences which make up my musical history. It's thundering like crazy out here now in Lillestrøm, Norway, and I can feel the first few drops of rain. So yeah, watch the channel for more over the next week or so, and then we'll be back to producing some new music.